Good morning, YouTube family and friends. This is Rev with Rev It Up Mustang Fanatic Productions Mechanic Edition. This is where we work on and solve mechanical problems on vehicles. And today we are working with a 2009 Cadillac CTS direct injection. And I already used my MaxiCam MK808 scan tool to scan while we had an engine code, and it comes up we have a misfire in cylinder number 2. So cylinder number 2 is on this side in the front. 2, 4, 6, 1, 3, 5. So we're either going to have a spark plug or a coil, and I'm inclined to believe it's going to be a coil. It happens that a spark plug can go bad, but I want to say that it's going to be a coil that's making this misfire. I've seen multiple misfires in cars. I've seen where one cylinder was misfire and it was due to a bad spark plug, but this year it only had 44,000 miles. I'm guessing it's going to be a coil. But anyway, we're going to check the condition on the spark plug, and what we normally do on this is we're going to take, these are coil over plugs, so the coil's on top and the plugs underneath. We're going to take the number 2 coil out, take the number 4 coil out, switch places, put 2 and 4, 4 and 2, erase the codes. Then we're going to start the car up, take it for a drive, and see if the check engine light will come back on. And then if it comes back on and number 4 cylinder is misfiring, then we know it's going to be the coil, and we can solve that problem. So let me get this intake off and these little plastic parts I got to get off the way so I can get to the engine, and we'll be right back. Okay, so what I had to do, these little plastic panels just pop off from here, and then there's a long one that went across this side. Here's where it popped onto at, and it clips on behind here. Now the number 4 injector is right here, so I won't be able to pull that. That's the number 2 injector, excuse me, right here. Number 4 injector is right here, and number 6 injector is back there. So in order for me to get to the number 2 injector, I have to move this cross member right here, and this is just 3/4 socket, and I use my impact to get that off, and then I can get to that coil back there. Okay, next we got to take our panel trim tool, remove these little trim pieces from this manifold sound deadener right here, take that out of the way, and then that number 4 injector could be exposed. Next, we took some hose pliers and we removed the PVC vacuum valve from the manifold to get that out of the way. And we're going to take some more vacuum lines out of the way, and then we should be able to have enough room to get this injector out of here. We got room to get the number 2 out. We want to swap places there and look at the spark plugs as well. So we took this electrical connector from out of that hole right there with our panel remover tool, and we got this up out of the way so we can get to the injectors now. And it's just a 10mm bolt and disconnecting the electrical connectors, and then we're going to swap them and see how the spark plugs look. I'm going to take a bungee cord and hold this back out of the way because it's kind of a tight wire here. Okay, the way the injectors come loose, there's some tangs you push in and then slide this part back like that, and then you can pull the injector out. And be careful to memorize the way you put it on. Numbers on top, because you can look down here and it can also click in that way also. So you want to make sure you got it clicking in the right way, numbers matching numbers. So this is the number 2 coil, and the spark plug, you can see down in the hole there, it is clean. It is clean as a whistle. I mean, that spark plug looks good. There's no oil down there or anything. But let me go out in the sun, see if I can get a good picture. Well, that made it worse. Yeah, here's a good picture of the plug. The plug doesn't seem to be too bad, but it does have a little bit of gray on it, but it's not black. I mean, it's not bad. So anyway, I'm gonna file that down. I mean, I'm gonna take some sandpaper and just clean that up, get it nice and shiny, but the plug doesn't look that bad. Okay, the number 4 plug seems to be in the same shape as the number 2 plug. So I don't see that the spark plug would be the problem, so I'm going to assume the coil's the problem. I already took coil 4, put it in coil 2 spot. I'm going to clean this spark plug up and then put the coils back on and fire it back up. Okay, just a reminder, you want to start these threads in the spark plug by hand and not put a wrench on it until you can get it to twist down so it'll stop. So you don't want to cross thread these things, and you don't want to over tighten them. So the amount of strength it took you to loosen it should be the same amount of strength it takes you to tighten it. And so I didn't bother switching spark plugs out, so all I did is clean the spark plugs. So, and the coil I'm switching, I already put coil 4 in coil 2 slot. Here's coil 2. I'm going to put in coil 4 hole, spark plug hole. Then I'm going to reconnect them, and I'm going to leave the breather off, and I'm going to leave this cross member off, connect those hoses. I'm going to start the car up, take it for a ride. First I'm going to erase the code, the misfire code, start the car up, take it for a good 10-15 minute ride, and see if that check engine light come back on. And if it does, then if it's showing up the number 4 cylinders misfire, then I know it's the coil and it's not the plugs. Okay, we're back to the Maxicom MK808 scan tool. We're going to go back into the system and we're going to erase the misfire code. We're going to crank the engine. We're going to erase the misfire code, and we're going to crank the engine up and take it for a ride and see if we can get the engine to repeat the code. If the check engine light come back on, if we have a misfire in cylinder 4, then we know that that coil is bad and we have to get a new coil. And I know this isn't focusing real well here. So we're waiting for it to go through the control functions to find the DTCs, and here's the engine faults code that we want to click in. Trouble code. Let's verify the code. Okay, there you see. Engine cylinder misfire detected. Cylinder 2. Okay, engine misfire detected. So now we're going to escape from here. We're going to go back to erase codes. So we're going to hit erase code. DTC and freeze data will be deleted. Are you sure you want to continue? Yes. Okay, codes have been successfully erased. Return to the function menu and tap read code to verify it. Okay. I'm going to return to the function menu. And let's see, trouble codes, read codes. Okay, no faults or codes detected. So now we want to escape. We want to get out of it. Escape, 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 escape. Are you sure? Okay. Escape, escape. Yes, I want to exit. And when you get it back to your home screen, then it's safe to unplug it, and you will not harm the computer, or you will not harm the car's computer. So now we're going to crank her up and take her for a ride and see if we can produce that misfire code. Okay, we're test driving it. We got 44,176 miles on the speedometer. The check engine light would be appear right there, yellow. It'd be an engine symbol. Nothing's come on yet. So far, I've driven about 12 miles or so. I'm on Highway 22, and we're gonna drive on here about 7 more miles. Go back down 701, back to the house, and that'll probably be a good, probably 25 miles or so. And if a check engine light doesn't come back on, then simply all it was is just that one spark plug was fouled up enough to cause the misfire in cylinder 2. So worst case scenario, all we got to do is get 6 new spark plugs, and this will be all set. And if in the future the check engine light does come back on and I put my scan tool on it and it's a misfire in cylinder 4, then we definitely know that that coil is bad. But from what I can tell now, if a coil's bad, that check engine light would have came on no more than about 5 to 7 miles of driving. That misfire would have came back on. Now, had not I cleaned the spark plugs, the check engine light would come back on again because the plugs would be foul. Because if you remember, when I did the Mercedes, I had a misfire in cylinder 1 and 3, and I did the same thing. I took the plugs out of 1 and 3, and I cleaned them with some sandpaper, and then I blew it off with compressed air, and I took a rag and got all the moisture off, and I swapped the coils and put the 1 coil in the 3 hole and put the 3 coil in the 1 hole, erased the code, took it for a test drive, and the check engine light never came back on. And so I drove it around for a month like that. It never came back on. And then that's when I went eventually, after I changed the oil, changed the fluid, the coolant, changed the thermostat, I ended up getting new plugs and putting plugs in there. And she's been running fine. So, so far that seems the same scenario here, is that we had some spark plugs. I'm going to have to ask him when the last time he had plugs in here. 44,000 miles, he probably never put plugs on it since he had the car. But I'll call them after I get back home and this check engine light doesn't come back on, and we'll just get new plugs and this deal will be sealed. So we're back after our probably 25 to 30 mile per hour drive. I put it through the Reassembling rigorous professional delicate driver's course. Stop and go traffic, 65 to 70. Shut the engine off, turn it back on. No check engine light. So the coil is good. It is the spark plug. So I got 6 brand new AC Delco Iridium spark plugs, guaranteed for 100,000 miles, $8.99 a piece. So we're gonna change the spark plugs. So we gotta take this engine support bar brace back off. Take the coils loose. I showed you how you take the injectors loose, the coil plugs loose, pull them out, and then change all the plugs. And they come pre-gap, but I checked them. The gap on them are 44 thousandths of an inch. I checked them. They're good to go. So I like to use never seize on the tips of the spark plugs so they won't get welded in place, because it takes a lot of heat. And then I like to put dilithium grease on top of the spark plug casting where the coil boot goes over. That way that doesn't get stuck. It'll slide in and off on it, and it'd be easier for the next guy to have to change the spark plugs on here, because after 100,000 miles, it's going to be a lot of heat. Things are going to be stuck, and you hate to pop a coil boot trying to pull the coil off to get the spark plug out. Then you got to buy a brand new coil. So do the right thing. Put a little dilithium grease on the inside of that boot or around the parts of this spark plug, and you'll never go wrong. Rev it up, Mustang Fanatic Productions, Mechanic Edition, Mechanic Edition. This is the acrylic part.
Before they started,
this is where you put the dilithium grease.
If you was racing with it, over speeding with it, they had a thing on it.
Tune up the lithium grease.
You would never be able to run a car again.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I was told. So.
And then around the threads, around here, just a little bit of indices so those don't get locked up. Okay, so we wrapped up putting the coils and spark plugs back on the driver's side. Now we turn our attention to the passenger side, and this here EGR hose here that goes to the emissions. You want to take this screw off, pull that out of the way so you can get to this center coil. And these coil plugs are 8 millimeters. So, and you just unscrew them, and the good thing about them is they don't come out. They just come to their stop. Now, to get this coil out, you simply just press in on these tabs like that and slide it out on the other end. Just pull on it like that, and then you can pull it off, and it comes right out just like that. And then you just pull it out. Now on some models, 2008 I believe, CTS, you can't get to the coils on the passenger side. You can get to them on the driver's side. You have to take off this whole intake in order to do that, but we got plenty of room to take it out. All we have to do is take this off, and we're all set. So that's how you take that coil connector off, and just pull the coil out. And no need to explain it going through the other coils. You know the story. Rev it up, Mustang Fanatic, Mechanic Edition. I just want to make note, if you pull a coil out and you got oil all over that boot, and you look down in that spark plug hole and there's oil in the spark plug hole, then my friend, what's happening is the spark plug tube seals are bad, and that will require removing the air intake and removing the valve cover gaskets, and you would have to get new valve cover gaskets, and then you will get what's called spark plug tube seals, and they go over the hole of the spark plug that prevents oil from piling up in there. So I've looked down in each of those spark plug holes, and there is no oil or anything wet in any of them. They're looking excellent, nice and dry and clean. So that's just something to take note of. If you notice oil there, you got some spark plug tube seals that are leaking. So we have all our spark plugs installed. We have all our coils on. We have the connectors on tight. We plugged in the vacuum line that goes into the intake PVC. We plug that back up, and we make sure everything is tight and that these connectors are on tight. Same on the other side. So now we're going to put everything back together, and we just like to double check that all the coils are plugged in nice and tight. We bolted that screw back down. Now we put the puzzle back together. We get our sound, the manifold dampening device, and in the back you'll see a hook. That hook, that's what this part goes underneath there. So you got to get that down in here good. Okay, and you see how it folds back right up underneath that, and you line it up with the little pinholes right here and right here. And I have my push pins right here close where I can see them, and push pins extend out like that, and then you just push it in and down. Same thing on this side. Push in and down. I'm sorry you didn't see that. Let's go back over on this side and do it. It's hard remembering you're using the camera and trying to film exactly what you're doing. Hold on a second. We'll be right back. Okay, push the pin in. It bottomed out. You see that part sticking up? Then push in, and your sound dampening manifold device is on. Now, the next piece of article you want to get, you want to start to put these side plates back on. Okay, this goes right in here, and those two pieces right here clip onto that right there, and the back end of that is just going to go over top of that right there. But you want to get this part underneath that rubber though. You want to make sure that's underneath the rubber, and then push back, and she's in place. See, she's in place. You got your high pressure line here, and you got your low pressure line here for your air conditioning, and so everything is in place. That's that side. Now the other side. Let me get my bolts out of the way here. Well, I gotta put my my bad, I gotta put the engine brace back on first. It's covering up my bolts, so I gotta get the engine brace, which is right here. put the engine brace on first. I'm sorry about that. And that's the wrong way. It goes that way. Okay. And the engine brace gets a washer on top of that. One bolt. Then you got the bolt with a nut on it. Then you go over to this side and you do the same thing. Washer with a bolt, and then the bolt that has the nut on it. And I'm gonna hold it up in place, and I'm gonna get that with my impact wrench. I can't hold it with one hand and do it. Now we got our engine support brace on. Now we go and line this back up. This part clips over the back of the railing here and down just like that, up under the lock. Make sure it's up underneath the sides of that rubber, and behind here it locks on back of the brace there, right in place, so it doesn't come up, and it's inside the rubber insulation. Now on the passenger side, you're going to have the same thing. Remember, this little thing is standing up. It's going to go right into that. Okay? And we make sure we get that around the strut support there for the hood, up underneath the rubber piece, pop down, pop in place. Easy peasy, living squeezy. Everything looking good. Now, let me get I should have had these spark plugs off of the engine here. Just drop down in here. Let me get them. 2 of them dropped. Nope. Yeah, 2 of them dropped. So let me get the other one. Let's see where that fell at. Did it hit the floor? Let me use my light here. That's my little rookie mistake. Well, let me find that other spark plug box, and we'll be right back. Okay, the intake tube or the intake cover, you see these 2 little prongs sticking out on the end there. Well, if you look back right there, you see that hook and that hook? That right there slides up underneath that. And right under here, you see that knob? There's a spot under there where that'll plug into, and then your oil hole just lines up right with that. Press down. You can put your fingers over on this to make sure that that's going down that hole, and you see it just caught and it clicked down in the hole. You get your oil tube, oil stick, and just put your oil stick back on, and she's locked down and she's all set. And that's how you do you do a misfire code in cylinder 2. I cleaned the spark plugs up, which were a little fouled, and I switched the coils from the number 2 cylinder to the 4 to 2. The 2 had the misfire, and I turned the check engine light off and cranked it up, took it for a good 20-30 mile ride, and come back, no check engine light. So the coil was good, so it was just the plugs that was giving the misfire. So we're going to crank her up again, see how she runs, and she's good and dandy. And I got all the plugs over here numbered. 1 through 6, and you can see how the wear on it was. So rev it up, Mustang Fanatic Productions, Mechanic Edition. Like and subscribe. Thanks for watching, and God bless.